some moves happened yesterday. The Mets hired Carlos Mendoza, who's the Yankees bench coach over the last 4 years and has been a coach in the Yankees organization for the last 15. What does he do? Well, I'll tell you what he does. He throws 40 sunflower seeds behind home plate before every single game as good luck for all 40 men on the roster. The Mets hired somebody who cares about luck. Smart.
There's only 26 that actually play in the game.
He cares, Sean, about the whole 40 man. How dare you tell a man?
15 of them are in Double-A. Who cares?
He cares. And you know what? It's about time someone cares in the Mets organization about Juju. The Guardians
don't hate that.
Yeah.
Don't hate that.
They need
for the Mets.
They need good vibes.
Yeah, they should hire like a nun if this doesn't work. just go like a monk. And they just try to get on the side of the man upstairs.
Yeah, I like that. The Guardians hired Stephen Vogt to replace Terry Francona. I could be butchering the pronunciation of that because I don't know who the F he is, but he's 39, one season as a bullpen quality coach for the Mariners. So what is that? Assistant to the pitching coach?
Hanging out with the bullpen guys. That's what it sounds like.
Wow. Sounds like he's had a really tough artist journey to becoming a major league manager.
Hey, Paul Sewell, get up. Start warming up.
Oh, wait. He's not there anymore because they traded him. Whoops. And the Chicago Cubs surprised the baseball world, apparently, by hiring Craig Counsell, which led to some sore feelings from the Milwaukee Brewers owner, Mark Attanasio. We've lost Craig to Chicago. But as I've reflected on this, said Attanasio, Craig has lost us and lost our community. We had a community here. Craig Counsell leaves it. He won't want to stay with the Milwaukee Brewers. You can get the hell out of here. Fugazi.
I guess the Chicago Cubs made him an offer he could not refuse.
Oh, they couldn't. They couldn't refuse it, Sean Mapes, because it was 5 years, $40 million. He's the highest paid manager in baseball. Imagine being that guy saying, yeah, he betrayed us. Yo, how about pay him 5 years, $40 million? I don't know.
Didn't you say most managers make $1 million to $3 million?
They make Jack Diddley. We're talking $3 million or less. I mean, most.
And he
you're
doubled
right.
that.
Yes, he got a ton. And this Brewers owner, this is just peak baseball owners. Most of these guys suck, except for Jim Crane, and I will keep licking that boot of Jim Crane. Nothing new for the Houston Astros, but a lot of, I guess, reports. I'm not convinced anyone truly has a feel for what the Houston Astros are doing right now. Bob Nightingale of the USA Today said that Dana Brown is pushing for Astros bench coach Joe Espada to be the guy. Jim Crane has the final decision. Meanwhile, Ken Rosenthal on his YouTube show offered a lot of maybes for the Houston Astros, who he says aren't that dissimilar from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim in their manager search.
How are the Angels and Astros similar? I'll tell you how. They're similar because their owners, Jim Crane in Houston, Artie Moreno in Anaheim, are quite involved in the process. Their owners are perhaps the ones making the selections here. Joe Espada, who has been their bench coach for quite some time now, under A.J. Hinch and under Dusty Baker, he would seem to be an obvious candidate, but Jim Crane might want a bigger name. Who that bigger name would be, I'm not sure. You've heard of Brad Ausmus's name being thrown around. He's got the link to Jeff Bagwell and Craig Biggio, both of whom are in the Astros front office. Ausmus also has failed twice as a manager. So that one is going to be really interesting too.
Here is a hack to understanding people in media. When someone says it's going to be interesting to see what happens as part of a report, it means they have no effing clue what's going to happen. It'll be interesting. That means I don't know what's going to happen next. And by the way, that little bit from Ken Rosenthal right there, here are all of, I guess, the contributions that he made to helping us understand what's going on with the Astros manager search. Jim Crane is perhaps making the final selection. Joe Espada seems to be the obvious candidate, but Jim Crane might want a bigger name. Who is the bigger name? I'm not sure. This is reporting in 2023. And look, I don't want to dump on Rosenthal because that's probably all the information that has been presented to him. But no one knows what's going on with the Astros manager search right now. And here's what I will say on top of that. I'm not going to be like those two thumbs on that New York show that we constantly talk about. They look like thumbs. They're bald. Sorry, bald people. You do look like thumbs when you're angry. Those two got pissy about the Mets hiring the guy away from the New York Yankees, Carlos Mendoza. What fools they are, not understanding the juju he could bring to the Mets because of the sunflower seed ritual that he does before the game for all 40 players on the roster. But I'm not going to be those guys when it comes to this search, because the reality is none of us have an effing clue about who will and who won't work as an MLB manager, ranging from possibilities like Joe Espada to Brad Ausmus. None of us know. I know there will be some who think that the hiring of Brad Ausmus could be a disaster. He has failed twice before as a manager, and I get that. I totally get that. You want somebody on their second chance, third chance. That's where things get a little bit dubious. But as a manager, with the Tigers from 2014 to 2017, are we looking at him as a guy who had a lot to work with? They did go 90-72 in his first season, but his second year, 74-87. His last year, they finished in last place. And then, of course, he replaced Mike Scioscia. He signed a 3-year contract with the Angels, and he got canned at the end of the year. And he's friends with Jeff Bagwell. And a lot of us are looking at Jeff Bagwell with a bit of a side eye and assume that he doesn't have maybe the most insight when it comes to baseball in 2023. But I'm actually not there. I don't think it really matters who the Astros hire as their next manager. I think that the clubhouse is still a very sound and strong one that doesn't need to have some super vibes guy or super hardo guy to make them do better out on the diamond. I think they all know that what they did this past season was unacceptable. Maybe it was a bit of a World Series hangover after the 3 years before, as they were trying to fight to clear their reputation after the sign stealing stuff. Reputation by association. So maybe they were burnt out there. But does any of us truly believe that the next manager of the Houston Astros is really going to matter at all? And I know a lot of people dumped on Dusty Baker last season. Baker was not the reason that the Astros season came to an end. Maybe it was a factor in not having as many good bats at the plate in the playoffs, but the pitchers stunk. That's why the season came to an end. I don't think it matters who the Astros hire as their next manager. I don't think you should be stressing about who they hire. Doesn't matter if it's a big name or not. Doesn't matter if it's somebody who's familiar or not, like Joe Espada. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And I'm sitting back, kicking my feet up, and yeah, trusting Jim Crane a bit. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe he is a little bit too hands-on. But I don't think that what the Astros do or don't do at manager is going to determine what happens in 2024. And no one should think that otherwise. No one. I really believe that. Dusty Baker's not the reason the season came to a close last year. If we're talking about small, tiny decisions that lead to the Astros not achieving what they're capable of, that's not the problem this past season. They need their players to play better. Does a better manager get that? I don't know, but probably not when you've got as many guys who have been here and done that and been through the postseason wars that this team has been through over the last 7 years. Sean, you look like you have a thought behind the glass.
Yeah. The only thing that, because I agree with you that managers in baseball aren't the most impactful when it comes to just raw winning and losing. As long as you don't have a bottom 3 in the league or a top 2 in the league, I don't think it matters. I think Chicago Cubs, they're kind of dumb for signing or for getting
counsel for that much money.
Counsel for $8 million is like a good reliever.
But they got money. The Cubs got money. And it's
after
not like
they let go of everyone that won a championship for them.
Well, now, time to reinvest,
money.
baby.
Oh, now they have money after being bad for 4 years, and they couldn't sign anyone. But I do think that, chances are whoever the actual manager is doesn't affect the ultimate, ultimate goal or the ultimate success for the Houston Astros. I do think, though, that the push and pull that seems to be happening with Dana Brown wanting it's especially interesting that Dana Brown, as a guy who's been on the job for 11 months now, is pushing for the bench coach, the longtime bench coach Joe Espada, where the owner, who's owned the team for a decade, isn't. He's wanting to go outside. And so that to me is interesting of what Jim Crane's plans are, and the fact that Jim Crane is so involved in a position that I don't think is that meaningful to the baseball operations in the grand scheme of things. I do think it's interesting that just how hands-on Jim Crane is.
That's fair.
It's not so much as, if Jim Crane hires his guy, it's going to ruin the Astros. It's just where that bleeds into other aspects of this roster of how big of a voice Jim Crane has we saw with Rafael Montero.
Totally fair. All of the things that you laid out there are totally fair. Jim Crane's involvement for some
it's
is
just what it speaks
concerning.
To. It's just what the manager search is kind of a microcosm of the larger thing of Jim Crane seems to be more involved than he was when Jeff Luhnow was around.
But I think we're basing that off of the last calendar year more than we're basing it off of anything right now. I don't think anyone actually knows whether or not Jim Crane is pushing for a bigger name per se. Every bit of reporting has involved the words seems, perhaps, might. It's not to say it's not happening, but I don't think anyone is really working with concrete evidence that Jim Crane is being meddlesome, which is generally how a hands-on owner is going to be portrayed.
I would just say that the fact that we do have reporting that Dana Brown wants Joe Espada, like the easy answer is just elevate the bench coach, that Joe Espada is not yet the manager of the Houston Astros. And so obviously, and we know that Jim Crane has a voice in this process.
100%.
And so, solve for X there, it means that Jim Crane doesn't want Joe Espada, or at least right now, he has other options that he's looking at before Joe Espada.
Couple of comments from the 832 on the text line. They should hire Ted Lasso. You know what? Ted Lasso, this last season, had a dumb subplot that was completely out of left field and seemed very 2023, if you will, but it actually did land very well. Did I tear up multiple times during the last couple of episodes? Oh, you bet your bottom dollar I did. Another texter from the 832. Bring back Dusty. F it. That would be really funny. He's not coming back. King Itchy 69 twitch.tv/ESPN 97.5. I think Dana wants Joe Espada because he can control him a bit more, and he wants a chess piece of his own. Totally fair. I mean, the power dynamic there would be Dana Brown's the guy in charge, and hey, Joe, you get to move up the rung, you get more money, but I want you to listen to what I want.
Yes, where another manager comes in, and it's the same as it was last year, where the manager kind of goes above Dana's head to Crane.
Right. With his own, as King Itchy continues, underling of sorts.
Exactly.
I don't think it's a big deal who the Astros hire next as their manager.